The alarm bells rang through the station for the third time that day. Ambassador Hana looked up from her desk and sighed. Another system had fallen. She could tell by the sound, the long wailing tone that meant total loss. No survivors, no escape ships, just gone. She walked to the window of her office and stared out at the planet Nexara below. The capital world of the Galactic Coalition looked peaceful from here, with its purple oceans and silver cities. But Hana knew the truth. The Coalition was dying. For 3 years, the Void Swarm had been eating its way through the galaxy. The Swarm was not like other enemies. It did not negotiate. It did not take prisoners. It simply consumed everything in its path. Planets, ships, stations, people, everything became part of the Swarm, transformed into more crystalline monsters that hungered for more. The Coalition had tried everything. They had the best weapons in the galaxy, energy shields that could stop a star's heat, plasma cannons that could cut through asteroids, battle computers that could calculate 1 million outcomes in a second. None of it mattered. The Swarm learned. It adapted. Every weapon used against it became useless after the first battle. Hana had been on Nexara for 2 years, representing Earth in the Coalition. Humanity was new to space, barely 200 years since their first colony ship left their home world. The Coalition had allowed them to join, but only as junior members. Humans had no vote in the Council, no say in major decisions. They were watched closely, studied like curious animals. The other species found humans disturbing. Too aggressive, they said, too violent, too quick to fight. Humanity's history was full of wars, and the Coalition species had stopped fighting among themselves thousands of years ago. They saw humans as primitive and dangerous. A knock on her door broke her thoughts. "Come in!" Hana called. Her assistant, a tall being with blue skin and 4 arms, entered quickly. "Ambassador, the Council has summoned you. Emergency session. You must come now." Hana felt her stomach tighten. In 2 years, she had never been called to a council session. Humans were not important enough. Something had changed. She followed her assistant through the massive station to the council chambers. The room was enormous, with seats for representatives from all 12 Coalition species. Hana had only seen it once before, during her welcoming ceremony. Now, as she entered, she saw something she had never seen: fear. The council members looked broken. Some had their heads down. Others stared at screens showing the latest disaster reports. At the center sat High Chancellor Vextar, leader of the Threxian people. His scales, normally bright green, looked dull and gray. "Ambassador Hana," Vextar said, his voice heavy with exhaustion. "Thank you for coming." Hana bowed slightly. "How can Earth help, Chancellor?" A bitter laugh came from one of the other council members. "Help? Your people can barely defend your own system." Vexatar raised one clawed hand for silence. "We have lost the Kelmar system. 3 billion souls. Gone in 4 days. The swarm is now only 5 jumps from Nexara itself." The room fell silent. Nexara falling meant the end. The capital held the Coalition's government, its main shipyards, its history archives, everything that made them who they were. "We have one last option," Vextar continued. He looked directly at Hana. "You." "Me?" Hana asked, confused. "Not you personally. Your species." Vexatar stood, his tall frame casting a shadow across the chamber. "We need warriors, Ambassador. Real warriors. Your people have a reputation." Hana understood now. They wanted Earth's military. Her heart began to race. Humanity would be honored to fight alongside the Coalition. "You do not understand," another council member said, her voice sharp. "We do not want you fighting alongside us. We want you fighting for us. We need your violence, your weapons, your willingness to die." The words stung, but Hana kept her face calm. "What exactly are you asking?" Vextar pulled up a hologram showing the galaxy. Red spread across half of it, marking swarm territory. Our fleets are depleted. Our strategies have failed. We have learned that the swarm adapts to our technology, but not as quickly to physical weapons, bullets, explosives, the primitive tools your species still uses. They are not primitive, Hana said quietly. They are effective. Yes, Vextar agreed. We need that effectiveness. We need Earth to send whatever military forces you can spare. We need human tactics, human aggression, human... He paused, searching for the word. Stubbornness. Hana looked around the chamber. Every eye was on her. These beings had looked down on humanity for years, called them barbaric, kept them at arm's length. Now, they were begging. I need to contact Earth, Hana said. This decision is not mine to make. We know, Vextar replied. But we need an answer quickly. We have weeks, perhaps days. The swarm does not rest. Hana bowed and left the chamber. Her mind raced as she walked back to her office. Earth had a military, yes, ships, soldiers, weapons. But nothing compared to the Coalition's forces. What could humanity really do against an enemy that had beaten the greatest civilizations in the galaxy? She sat at her desk and opened the quantum communication link to Earth. The connection took a moment, then a face appeared on her screen. Commander Day, head of Earth's military space forces. He looked young, maybe 40, with sharp eyes and short black hair. Ambassador Hana, Day said. This is unusual. Direct contact? Commander, I need to speak with the Council of Earth immediately. Emergency priority. Day's expression changed. What happened? The Coalition is losing the war. They want our help. Our military help. There was a long silence. Then Day leaned forward. They want us to fight? Yes. They are desperate, Commander. The swarm is winning. They have lost billions. And now they are asking us, the species they called too violent, to save them. Day's jaw tightened. How long do we have to decide? Days. Maybe less. I will contact the Council immediately. Stay near your communicator. Day paused. Hana, do you think we can actually help them? Hana looked out her window again at the beautiful planet below. Somewhere out in the darkness, the swarm was coming. It would consume Nexara, then move on to the next system, and the next. Eventually, it would reach Earth. I think we have to try, she said. If they fall, we are next. Day nodded slowly. I will get you an answer soon. The connection ended. Hana sat in her office and waited. Outside, another alarm began to sound. Another system lost. The swarm was getting closer. Her communicator buzzed 6 hours later. Day's face appeared again, but he was not alone. Behind him, she could see the members of Earth's Council. Ambassador Hana, Day said. Earth has made its decision. We are sending everything we have. 15 warships, 20,000 soldiers, all our deep space forces. I will command them personally. Hana felt tears start to form but forced them back. That is your entire fleet, Commander. Yes, if the Coalition falls, Earth falls anyway. Better to fight there than wait here. Day smiled slightly. Besides, humanity has never been good at running away from a fight. When will you arrive? 3 weeks. Tell the Coalition we are coming. Tell them the humans are coming. Hana ended the call and immediately requested another council session. This time, when she entered the chamber, she stood tall. Earth accepts, she announced. Commander Day will arrive with 15 warships and 20,000 soldiers in 3 weeks. The council members looked at each other. Finally, Vextar spoke. That is everything Earth has. Yes, Hana confirmed. Everything. Why? Another council member asked. Why would you risk extinction for us? Hana thought about her answer carefully. Because it is the right thing to do. Because you asked. And because humans do not abandon their allies. even when those allies never really saw us as equals. Vextar stood and bowed deeply, something Hana had never seen a Threxian do for a human. "Thank you, Ambassador. We will prepare for your people's arrival." As Hana left the chamber, she felt the weight of what was coming. Earth was betting everything on this fight. If they lost, humanity would have no defense left. But if they won, everything would change. She returned to her office and looked out at Nexara one more time. In 3 weeks, human ships would arrive in this system. Ships full of soldiers ready to fight and die for people who had never really respected them. The swarm was coming. But now, so were the humans. The human fleet arrived exactly on schedule. Hana stood in the observation deck with Commander Day, watching as 15 Earth warships entered Nexara's orbit. They looked small compared to the massive coalition vessels nearby. Their hulls were gray and angular, built for function rather than beauty. No glowing energy fields, no sleek curves, just metal, weapons, and engines. "They look ancient," a Threxian officer muttered behind them. Day heard the comment but said nothing. He had expected this reaction. Earth's technology was 200 years behind the Coalition's best. But he had not come here to impress anyone with fancy ships. He had come to fight. "Commander Day," Vextar's voice came over the communication system. "Welcome to Nexara. Please come aboard the station for a strategy meeting." Within an hour, the meeting room was full. Coalition admirals and generals filled one side of the long table. Day sat on the other side with his officers. Hana stood near the door, watching both groups carefully. Day had brought his best people. Captain Jin commanded the battle carrier Indomitable, the flagship of Earth's fleet. He was quiet and serious, with eyes that missed nothing. Next to him sat Dr. Yuna, a scientist who had spent 5 years studying alien biology. She looked young but had published more papers on xenobiology than anyone else on Earth. Lieutenant Rena led the Marine forces. She was short and muscular, with scars on her hands from years of training. Beside her, Chief Engineer Tay fidgeted with a small tool, already bored with the formal meeting. He preferred working with machines to talking to people. Admiral Korath, a tall alien with silver skin and 6 fingers on each hand, stood and activated a hologram. It showed the galaxy with the swarm's territory marked in red. "The situation is critical," Korath said. "The swarm has consumed 47 systems in the past month alone. Our fleets cannot stop them. Every strategy we try fails within days because the swarm adapts." He looked at the humans with barely hidden doubt. "You claim your weapons can help. Please explain." Captain Jin stood. "May I see the data on swarm composition and behavior?" Korath sent the files to Jin's tablet. The human captain studied them for several minutes while everyone waited. Finally, Jin looked up. "You have been using energy weapons exclusively. Plasma, lasers, particle beams, all high technology." "Of course," Korath said. "They are the most effective weapons." "Against normal enemies, yes," Jin replied. "But the swarm is not normal. It is adaptive technology. Energy signatures can be analyzed and countered." "But physical force?" He tapped his tablet. "Harder to adapt to a bullet traveling at 3,000 meters per second." Another coalition officer laughed. "Bullets? You want to fight with bullets? We stopped using projectile weapons 3,000 years ago." "And that is why you are losing," Jin said calmly. The room went silent. Korath's face darkened. "You dare!" "He dares to tell you the truth," Day interrupted, standing. "You called us because you were desperate. Did you expect us to use your failed tactics? We fight differently. If that offends you, we can leave right now." Vextar raised his hand. "Peace, please. Commander Day is right. We asked for help. We must listen." He looked at Jin. "Continue, Captain." Jin pulled up images of swarm creatures. "Dr. Yuna, your analysis." Dr. Yuna stood, pushing her glasses up nervously. I have studied the samples you provided. The swarm's crystalline structure is remarkable. It absorbs and redistributes energy, which is why energy weapons lose effectiveness. But the structure has a weakness. Physical trauma creates fractures that the swarm cannot quickly repair. In simple terms, if you hit them hard enough, they break. Hit them? Korath asked. You mean close combat? If necessary, Rena said, speaking for the first time. Her voice was hard. My Marines are trained to fight in any environment, including inside enemy ships. The Coalition officers looked shocked. Board swarm vessels? That is suicide. Only if you lose, Rena replied with a slight smile. Chief Tay laughed quietly. Several aliens turned to look at him. He shrugged. Sorry. Just funny how you call everything we do suicide. We are still alive. Day brought the conversation back to focus. We need a test. Let us prove our tactics work. Give us one target, one battle. If we fail, you lose nothing you would not have lost anyway. Vextar and Korath spoke quietly to each other for a moment. Then Vextar nodded. There is a mining colony on Tertius 7. The swarm reached it 2 days ago. We were planning to evacuate what we could and abandon the system. It is not strategically important. Perfect, Day said. Give us 3 days to prepare. Then we will show you how humans fight. The meeting ended. As the Coalition officers left, Hana heard them talking among themselves. They did not believe. They thought the humans were arrogant fools about to die. She hoped they were wrong. Over the next 3 days, the human fleet prepared. Captain Jin drilled his crews constantly. Dr. Yuna worked with samples in a lab, running test after test. Lieutenant Rena trained her Marines in boarding operations. Chief Tay and his engineers checked every weapon, every system, every seal on every suit. Hana visited the Indomitable on the 2nd day. She found Day in the ship's chapel, sitting alone. Having doubts, Commander? She asked quietly. Day looked up. Always. But doubts do not change what we need to do. The Coalition does not believe in you. I know. They think we are primitive, violent, stupid. He smiled slightly. They are half right. Which half? We are violent. But it is controlled violence, purpose-driven violence. We fight not because we love death, but because we love life. He stood and walked to a wall where photos hung. Pictures of Earth, cities, forests, oceans. We fight for this, for home, for each other. The Coalition has forgotten how to do that. They fought for 3 years, Hana said. No, they calculated for 3 years. They strategized. They tried to outsmart the swarm with technology and tactics, but war is not a math problem. He turned to face her. Sometimes you just need to punch the enemy in the face as hard as you can and keep punching until they stop moving. Hana laughed, despite herself. That is your strategy? Basically, yes. On the 3rd day, the fleet departed for Tertius 7, 15 human warships and 20 Coalition vessels. Korath commanded the Coalition forces, but gave tactical control to Day. The Admiral made it clear this was only because the Council had ordered it. The journey took 2 days. During that time, Dr. Yuna briefed all the captains on swarm vulnerabilities. Rena ran simulations with the Marine teams. Tay modified weapon systems, adding old-fashioned explosive charges to missiles that normally just used energy payloads. Captain Jin spent hours studying the Tertius 7 system data. The colony had been home to 50,000 people. Now it was surrounded by swarm ships, dozens of them, all feeding on the station's materials and energy. The key is speed, Jin explained during a final briefing. We hit fast, hit hard, and do not stop hitting. The moment we give them time to adapt, we lose the advantage. And if we cannot destroy all the swarm ships, Korath asked, then we cripple as many as possible and retreat. This is a test, not a suicide mission. We gather data, prove the concept, and use that knowledge for larger battles. When they finally arrived at Tertius 7, Hana watched from the Indomitable's bridge. Through the view screens, she could see the swarm ships. They looked like massive crystals, beautiful and terrible, pulsing with stolen energy. "All ships ready?" Jin reported to Day. "Coalition fleet standing by," Korath added, his voice skeptical. Day stood at the command station, looking at the tactical display. Hana could see his jaw set, his hands steady. This was the moment. Everything depended on the next few hours. "Attention all ships," Day said calmly. "This is Commander Day. The swarm has taken much from the galaxy. Today we take something back. Today we show them that this galaxy belongs to the living. Today we show them what happens when they threaten our home." He paused. "All ships. Weapons free. Attack speed. Let them see what humans can do." The fleet surged forward. Human ships accelerated faster than coalition vessels, their older but simpler engines pushing them ahead. Railguns began firing, sending solid metal projectiles toward the swarm at incredible speeds. Missiles followed, hundreds of them, each carrying conventional explosives. The swarm ships turned to face this new threat. Their weapons, designed to counter energy attacks, fired beams of focused radiation. The beams hit human shields and armor, burning through in places, but the ships kept coming. "First impact in 10 seconds, Jin reported. Hana gripped the railing of the observation deck. Everything Earth had bet on this moment. 5 seconds, Jin counted down. 3, 2, 1, impact. The first railgun rounds hit a swarm ship dead center. The crystalline hull shattered, pieces flying in all directions. The second volley hit another ship, then another. Missiles detonated against swarm hulls, the physical force of the explosions tearing through structures that had been nearly immune to energy weapons. "They are breaking," someone shouted. It was true. The swarm ships, which had seemed invincible, were cracking apart under the barrage of physical weapons. The humans were winning, but then alarms started blaring across the human fleet. The swarm was adapting, reinforcing their hulls, maneuvering to avoid the projectiles. The easy victories stopped. "This is where it gets hard," Day muttered. He opened a channel to Rena. "Lieutenant, are your teams ready?" "Always, sir." "Then board them. Show these creatures what close combat means." Rena smiled. "With pleasure." The boarding pods launched from the human ships like bullets. Each pod carried 20 Marines in full combat armor, armed with weapons the Coalition had not seen in millennia. Rifles, shotguns, grenades, explosives, tools meant to kill at close range. Lieutenant Rena sat in the lead pod with her team. Through the small window, she watched a swarm ship grow larger as they approached. Its crystalline surface pulsed with strange light, beautiful and deadly. 30 seconds to impact, the pilot announced. Rena checked her rifle one more time. Beside her, a young Marine named Quan looked nervous. It was his first real combat mission. "You ready?" Rena asked him. "Yes, ma'am. I think so." "Good. Remember your training. Stay with your team. Watch your corners. And when you see a target, do not hesitate." "The swarm will not." The pod slammed into the swarm ship's hull. Magnetic clamps locked them in place. Cutting torches activated, burning through the crystalline armor. It took 40 seconds, an eternity in combat. Then the seal broke and the hatch opened. "Go, go, go!" Rena shouted. The Marines poured into the swarm ship. Inside, it looked like a cave made of crystals. Everything glowed with stolen energy. The air was thin and cold. Their suit sensors showed radiation levels that would kill an unprotected person in minutes. Swarm creatures came at them immediately. They looked like spiders made of glass, each one the size of a large dog. They moved fast, skittering along the walls and ceiling. "Open fire!" Rena commanded. The narrow corridor filled with gunfire. Bullets shattered the crystal creatures. They died differently than anything Rena had fought before, exploding into fragments that clattered across the floor. But they kept coming. For everyone they killed, 2 more appeared. "Grenades!" someone shouted. Explosive devices flew down the corridor. The blasts were deafening in the confined space. Chunks of crystal flew everywhere. The swarm creatures fell back, unable to adapt to the simple, brutal force of explosives. Rena's team pushed forward. Behind them, other teams were fighting their way through different sections of the ship. The plan was simple: plant charges at key structural points and blow the ship apart from the inside. "Found a structural column," one Marine reported over the radio. "Planting charges now." "Same here," another voice said. Rena led her team deeper into the ship. They passed through chambers filled with strange machinery, or maybe it was organic tissue. With the swarm, it was hard to tell the difference. Everything pulsed and moved like it was alive. A swarm creature dropped from the ceiling onto Quan. He fell, struggling against its cutting limbs. Rena fired 3 quick shots, shattering the creature. She pulled Quan to his feet. "Stay alert!" she yelled. They reached what looked like a central chamber. The room was huge, maybe 50 meters across. In the center, a massive crystal structure pulsed with energy. Power lines connected it to every part of the ship. "This must be the core," Rena said. "Plant everything we have. We blow this. We blow the whole ship." Her team moved quickly, placing explosive charges around the crystal core. They had just finished when more swarm creatures poured into the chamber. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. They came from every entrance, covering the walls like a living carpet. "Charges are set!" a Marine shouted. "We need to leave now!" "Fall back!" Rena ordered. "Fighting retreat! Cover each other!" The team moved backward toward their entry point, firing constantly. The swarm pressed them hard. 2 Marines went down, their armor torn open by crystal claws. Their teammates dragged them along, refusing to leave anyone behind. They reached the boarding pod just as their ammunition ran low. Everyone scrambled inside. The pilot fired the release bolts, and the pod blasted away from the swarm ship. "Detonator ready," Rena said, watching through the window as the swarm ship grew smaller. She could see other boarding pods pulling away from different sections. "All teams report." One by one, the other team leaders checked in. They had lost 8 Marines. 14 more were wounded, but all the charges were placed. "Detonate," Rena said quietly. She pressed the button. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the swarm ship lit up from inside. Explosions rippled through its structure. The crystalline hull cracked, then shattered. The entire ship broke apart in a cloud of glittering fragments. Back on the Indomitable, Hana watched the battle unfold. The human ships were taking heavy damage. 3 were badly hit, trailing atmosphere and debris. But the swarm was losing worse. The human tactics were working. Captain Jin stood calmly on his bridge, directing fire. "Target the largest ship. All railguns. Concentrated fire. Missiles on my mark." The Indomitable's weapons hammered at a swarm mothership. The creature vessel tried to maneuver away, but it was too large and slow. Hundreds of solid projectiles punched through its hull. Then the missiles hit, and explosions tore it apart. "They are retreating!" someone shouted. It was true. The remaining swarm ships were pulling back, moving away from the colony. They had been hurt too badly to continue the fight. "Do we pursue?" Jin asked Day. The commander studied the tactical display. His fleet was damaged. Casualties were mounting, but they were winning. "No," Day decided. "We have proven what we needed to prove. Let them run. Let them take the message back to the rest of the swarm. Humans do not make easy prey." The human ships regrouped around Tertius 7. The coalition vessels, which had been hanging back and observing, moved forward cautiously. Admiral Korath's voice came over the communication channel. "Commander Day, your tactics were effective. Casualties? 3 ships heavily damaged, 753 wounded, 82 dead." Day's voice was flat, professional, but Hana could see the cost in his eyes. Each number was a person. Someone's child, parent, friend. The coalition losses are minimal. Less than 50 casualties, Korath reported. Then, after a pause, "We did not expect your methods to work. We were wrong." "Yes, you were," Day said simply. Chancellor Vextar's image appeared on the screen. He looked different now, less skeptical, more thoughtful. "Commander Day, I watched the battle. Your people fought with— I do not have the right word. Courage is not enough. Determination is not enough. You fought like the survival of your entire species depended on this one battle." "Every battle could be that battle," Day replied. "We learned that lesson long ago on Earth. During our world wars, during our survival struggles, we learned that you fight with everything you have, every time, because you never know which battle will be your last." Dr. Yuna's voice came through from the medical bay where she was helping treat the wounded. "Commander, I have analyzed the swarm remains. The physical damage disrupted their communication network. When we shattered their ships, we broke their connection to the hive mind. That is why they retreated. They became confused, disorganized." "Can we use that?" Vextar asked eagerly. "Yes," Yuna confirmed. "If we hit them hard enough, fast enough, we can cause cascade failures in their network. They cannot adapt if they cannot communicate." Chief Tay's rough voice joined the conversation. "The human ships are damaged but fixable. Give me 2 days and some of your coalition tech, and I can have them ready to fight again. Maybe even better than before." Korath spoke up. "Commander Day, the Council has authorized me to offer you tactical command of all coalition forces in the Tertius sector. Your methods work. We need you to teach us." Day looked at Hana. She nodded slightly. This was the moment that everything changed. "I accept," Day said. "But understand this, Admiral. My methods require sacrifice. They require accepting losses to achieve victory. Can the Coalition do that?" There was a long silence. The Coalition species had not suffered serious military casualties in centuries. They had forgotten what war really cost. Finally, Vextar answered. "We have lost billions already. We have lost entire worlds. We have lost everything except the will to survive. If your methods can save what remains, then yes, we can accept the cost." "Good," Day said, "because this was just the beginning. Tertius 7 was a small engagement. The real battles are coming." Over the next week, the story of Tertius 7 spread through the Coalition. A human fleet, tiny and primitive by Coalition standards, had defeated a swarm force that would have consumed any other Coalition fleet. The humans had lost a third of their people, and they called it a victory, because it was. Ambassador Hana walked through the station's memorial hall. They had added names to the wall. 82 new names, human names, people who came to save strangers and died doing it. A Threxian officer stood nearby, also reading the names. "I do not understand," he said to Hana. "Why did they fight so hard for us? We treated your people as inferiors." Hana thought about her answer carefully. "Because that is what humans do. When someone needs help, we help. Even if they did not respect us, even if it costs us everything, because we believe that every life has value. That includes yours." The officer looked at the names again. "What did Commander Day call it? The human gift?" "No," Hana said softly. "The human burden. We cannot ignore suffering. We cannot walk away from those in need. It is both our greatest strength and our greatest weakness." She left the memorial hall and went to the observation deck. Outside, the human ships were being repaired. Coalition engineers swarmed over them, working alongside Chief Tay's teams. The two groups were learning from each other, sharing techniques, building something new together. Captain Jin's voice came over her communicator. "Ambassador, Commander Day wants to brief the Council tomorrow. We have a plan to retake the Kelmar system." Hana smiled. Kelmar was the system they lost weeks ago, the loss that had driven the Coalition to call for human help. Now they were going to take it back. Tell the commander I will arrange the meeting, Hana replied. She looked out at the stars. The swarm was still out there, still dangerous, still consuming world after world. But now, for the first time in 3 years, the galaxy had hope. The humans had arrived, and they were just getting started. 6 months after Tertius 7, the galaxy looked different. Not in physical ways, but in spirit. The Coalition was fighting back, and they were winning. Commander Day stood in the war room on Nexara, looking at the star map. Blue markers showed Coalition-controlled systems. Red showed swarm territory. For the first time in 3 years, the red was shrinking. Kelmar is secured, Captain Jin reported. The swarm has completely withdrawn from the system. We lost 3 ships, but the system is ours again. Day nodded. Kelmar had been the first major victory after Tertius 7. It proved that the human tactics worked on a larger scale, but it had taken 2 months of hard fighting to reclaim the system. 2 months of brutal combat. The Coalition had learned the cost of war. Lieutenant Rena entered the room, followed by a group of alien soldiers. They wore modified armor, a mix of Coalition technology and human design. On their shoulders, they carried unit patches, something the Coalition military had never used before. Humans had brought that tradition with them. "Commander, the new Marine companies are ready for inspection," Rena said. Day looked at the alien soldiers. 6 months ago, they would never have volunteered for close combat. Now they stood proud, ready to board enemy ships and fight at close range. Rena had trained them herself, teaching them human tactics and human attitudes. "At ease, soldiers," Day said. "Lieutenant Rena tells me you have completed the training program. That you are ready to fight like Marines." A tall Threxian soldier stepped forward. His name was Kex, and he had been one of the first volunteers. "Yes, sir, we learned from the best. Lieutenant Rena is a hard teacher, but fair. She taught us that courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting despite fear." Day smiled. Rena had learned that lesson herself long ago. Now she was passing it on to others. "Good. The swarm does not care about species or technology. It only cares about consuming. But we care. We care about each other, about our homes, about our future. That is why we will win." The soldiers saluted and left for their assignments. Rena stayed behind. "How many trained now?" Day asked her. 2,000 Coalition Marines across 5 species. 10 times what we started with. More volunteers arrive every day. They see what we can do and they want to be part of it. Dr. Yuna entered next, carrying data tablets. She looked tired, but excited. "Commander, I have the latest analysis of swarm behavior. They are definitely learning. They reinforce their ships faster now. They avoid close combat when possible, but they still cannot adapt quickly to physical weapons." "How long until they do?" Day asked. "Hard to say. Maybe months, maybe years. The swarm is intelligent, but it thinks in patterns. Physical force is chaotic, unpredictable. That makes it hard for them to counter." "We need to push while we have the advantage," Captain Jin said, joining them. "Every day we wait, the swarm adapts more." Chief Engineer Tay walked in last, covered in grease and smiling. "Good news, Commander. The Coalition finally agreed to retrofit their fleet with railgun systems. I have been teaching their engineers how to build them. Not as good as ours yet, but getting better." Day looked at his team. They were exhausted. All of them had been working without real rest for months, but they were making a difference. The galaxy was surviving because of them. "Take a day off, all of you," Day ordered. "That is a direct command. Rest, relax. We have a long fight ahead." They protested, but Day was firm. He needed his people sharp, not burned out. After they left, he turned back to the star map. 4 systems retaken, 8 battles won, but the cost was high. Human casualties were over 50% now, more than 10,000 dead. The Coalition was losing too, but not as many. They had learned to fight smarter, using human tactics to reduce their own losses. Ambassador Hana found him there hours later, still staring at the map. You should rest too, she said gently. I will. Soon. He pointed at a system deep in swarm territory. Do you know what that is? No. Dr. Yuna believes it is the swarm's central nexus, the Void Heart. If we can destroy it, we can fragment the entire swarm network. They would become mindless drones, easy to clean up. Can we reach it? Maybe, but it would take everything we have, every ship, every soldier. A suicide mission, basically. Day rubbed his eyes. The Council wants me to plan the assault. They see it as our only chance for total victory. Hana stood beside him, looking at the distant system. Is it worth it? That is the question, is it not? We have momentum now. We are winning. Do we keep fighting this slow, grinding war, or do we risk everything on one desperate strike? He turned to face her. What would Earth want? Earth would want you to come home alive, Hana said. But we also know that sometimes the hard choice is the right choice. The next day, Day called a full council meeting. Every species sent representatives. The room was packed. Day stood at the center with Dr. Yuna beside him. The hologram showed the galaxy with a new marker, a pulsing red star deep in swarm space. This is the Void Heart, Dr. Yuna explained. Based on swarm communication patterns and fleet movements, we believe this is their central intelligence. Every swarm ship connects to it. Every decision flows from it. If we destroy it, Day continued, the swarm becomes fragmented. Individual ships will still be dangerous, but they will not coordinate. They will not adapt. We can defeat them, piece by piece. Chancellor Vextar leaned forward. What do you need? Everything. Every warship we can gather. Every soldier who can fight. We need to punch through the swarm defenses around the Void Heart and destroy it before they can respond. Day brought up casualty projections. The numbers were terrible. Expected survival rate is 15%. The room went silent. Those numbers meant death for most of the fleet. It meant thousands of casualties. You ask us to commit suicide, one council member said. No, Day replied. I ask you to commit to victory. There is a difference. Admiral Korith, who had fought alongside humans for 6 months now, stood up. I will go. My ships, my crews. We have learned from the humans that some things are worth dying for. Other voices joined in. Threxian commanders volunteered. Then Kellish captains, then others. One by one, every species committed their forces. Vexitar stood last. When I first met Commander Day, I did not understand humans. You seemed reckless, violent, wasteful of life. I was wrong. You are not wasteful of life. You simply understand that some things matter more than survival. That meaning matters. That purpose matters. That fighting for others matters. He looked around the council. 6 months ago, we were losing. Now we have hope. The humans gave us that. They taught us how to fight again, how to sacrifice, how to believe in victory even when it seems impossible. We owe them everything. So yes, I commit our forces to this assault. All of them! The room erupted in agreement. Every member of the council voted yes. The assault on the Void Heart was approved. Over the next month, the coalition gathered every available ship. The fleet was massive, the largest assembled in galactic history. 200 coalition warships and 12 human ships. The humans had lost 3 more vessels in recent battles. Lieutenant Rena trained her Marines day and night. They would need to board the Void Heart itself and plant charges. It would be the most dangerous mission yet. Chief Tay worked miracles, upgrading weapons systems and armor. He integrated human and coalition technology in ways that should not work, but somehow did. When coalition engineers asked how he did it, he just shrugged. I stopped thinking about what should work and focus on what does work. Captain Jin drilled the fleet endlessly. Coalition and human ships practicing together, learning to fight as one force. The coordination was not perfect, but it was getting better. Dr. Yuna prepared detailed plans of the Void Heart based on long-range scans. The structure was enormous, bigger than a moon. It would take multiple strikes to destroy it completely. 3 days before the departure, Hana organized a memorial service. They gathered in the station's largest hall. Humans and aliens stood together, remembering those already lost. The names read aloud took hours. So many dead, so many sacrifices. A young human medic named Hai spoke at the service. She had been working in the medical stations, treating wounded from both human and coalition forces. "I came here to help people," she said. "That is all. Just help. I did not think about species or technology or politics. I just saw people who were hurt and needed care. That is what humanity does. We help, even if it costs us, even if we die doing it. Because that is who we are." After the service, Day gathered his officers one last time before departure. "We all know what we are facing," he said quietly. "Most of us will not come back. That is the reality. But we will do this anyway because billions of lives depend on it. Because our homes depend on it. Because the future depends on it." He looked at each of them. "It has been an honor serving with all of you." Captain Jin raised his glass. "To the fleet, to the fallen, to victory." They all drank, coalition and human officers together. The barriers between them had fallen away over the past months. They were not separate anymore. They were one force, united by purpose and sacrifice. The fleet departed Nexara on a cold morning. Hana watched from the observation deck as the ships formed up and jumped to faster than light. The station felt empty without them. Most of the military personnel were gone. Only support staff and wounded remained. She went to her office and opened a communication to Earth. The message would take hours to arrive, but she needed to send it. "This is Ambassador Hana. Commander Day has led the fleet to attack the swarm's central nexus. We expect heavy casualties. If you are receiving this message and have not heard from the fleet, assume they did not succeed. Prepare Earth's defenses. The swarm will eventually reach us. But know this, humanity fought with honor. We saved billions. We taught the galaxy how to hope again. If this is our end, it is a good end. We made a difference." She closed the transmission and sat back. All she could do now was wait. Wait and hope that the humans, one more time, could do the impossible. Outside, the stars shone cold and distant. Somewhere among them, the fleet was racing toward destiny. The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Void Heart system. What they saw made even the bravest soldiers pause. The Void Heart itself hung in space like a dark crystal moon, pulsing with terrible energy. Around it, thousands of swarm ships moved in perfect patterns, an army unlike anything they had faced before. "Tactical analysis," Commander Day ordered calmly. 6,000 swarm vessels detected, Captain Jin reported from the Indomitable. "Multiple classes. This is their entire defensive fleet." "Then we came to the right place," Day said. "All ships, battle formation. This is what we trained for. This is why we came. For everyone who has fallen, for everyone we protect, for the future of the galaxy. Attack speed, go." The combined fleet surged forward. Coalition ships on the outer edges, human ships forming the spear point. Railguns opened fire first, sending streams of metal death across the void. The swarm responded immediately, thousands of energy beams lancing out. Ships began dying within the first minute. A coalition cruiser exploded, its shields overwhelmed. A human destroyer lost its engines and drifted. But the fleet kept moving forward, pushing through the defensive fire. Lieutenant Rena sat in her boarding pod with her mixed team of human and alien Marines. They watched the battle through the small windows, seeing ships die all around them. "Steady, everyone," Rena said over the team radio. "We have trained for this. We are ready." A young Threxian Marine named Kex checked his weapon nervously. "Do you think we will survive, Lieutenant?" "Honestly? Probably not. But we will complete the mission. That is what matters." The fleet pushed deeper into the swarm formation. The fighting was brutal. Coalition tactics mixed with human aggression created a fighting style the swarm had never encountered. When energy shields failed, human ships rammed swarm vessels. When weapons overheated, coalition ships provided covering fire. They fought as one. Chief Engineer Tay worked frantically in the Indomitable's engineering section. "Captain, we have lost 2 main engines and shields are at 30%. "Keep us moving, Chief," Jin replied. "We need to get close enough to launch the boarding teams." "I am trying, but this ship is held together with hope and duct tape at this point." "Then use more hope and more duct tape." Despite the impossible odds, the fleet reached the Void Heart. The massive structure loomed before them, bigger than any station, any ship, anything they had seen. Its surface crawled with swarm creatures and weapons. "All boarding teams launch now," Day commanded. Hundreds of boarding pods shot out from the fleet. They hit the Void Heart's surface like missiles, cutting through the crystalline armor. Marines poured out, fighting immediately against swarm defenders. Rena's team made it inside and began moving toward the core. The corridors were massive, built for something much larger than people. Everything glowed with stolen energy. The air itself felt wrong, thick and electric. They fought through wave after wave of swarm creatures. The aliens in her team fought bravely, using everything Rena had taught them. A Kellish soldier named Aura saved Kex's life, shooting a swarm creature that had jumped from above. Kex returned the favor moments later. "This is what we trained for," Rena shouted, firing her rifle at another wave. "Keep moving, stay together!" Outside, the battle raged on. The fleet was being destroyed slowly but surely. Half the ships were gone. More died every minute. But they kept fighting, giving the boarding teams time to complete their mission. Admiral Koreth's flagship lost all weapons. "I am sorry, Commander Day," he said over the communication channel. "We can fight no longer." "Then ram them," Day replied. "Make your last moment count." Koreth smiled grimly. "It has been an honor, Commander. Remember the Threxian people. We stood with you in the end." His ship accelerated, crashing into a swarm mothership. Both vessels exploded in a flash of light. Dr. Yuna, working from a science ship near the rear of the formation, monitored the teams inside the Void Heart. "Commander, multiple teams have reached structural weak points. They are planting charges, but we need someone to reach the actual core. That is where the swarm's intelligence resides." "Which team is closest?" Day asked. "Lieutenant Rena's team. But they have at least a kilometer to go through heavy resistance." Day opened a channel to Rena. "Lieutenant, you need to reach the core, whatever it takes." "Understood, sir," Rena replied. "We will not fail." Her team pushed forward with desperate speed. They were down to 15 soldiers now, so many lost in the fighting, but they kept going, kept fighting, kept believing. They reached a massive chamber. In the center, suspended in energy fields, was a crystal unlike any they had seen. It pulsed with intelligence, with awareness. This was the Void Heart's core. This was the enemy's brain. "Plant everything we have," Rena ordered. "Every explosive, every charge. We are ending this today." The team spread out, placing charges around the chamber. Swarm creatures poured in, trying to stop them. The Marines formed a defensive line, fighting with everything they had. One by one, they fell. Aura died protecting Kex. Other soldiers, whose names Rena would never forget, gave their lives to buy time. Finally, the charges were set. Only Rena, Kex, and 3 human Marines remained alive. "Detonator ready," Rena said. "Everyone, get to the evacuation point." They ran. Behind them, swarm creatures gave chase. They made it back to their boarding pod just as their ammunition ran out. The pilot fired the engines, pulling them away from the Void Heart. "All teams report," Day's voice came through. "Did we succeed?" Team after team reported in. Charges planted, missions complete, but at terrible cost. Of the 2,000 Marines who went in, only 300 were coming out. Lieutenant Rena to Commander Day. "Core charges are planted and armed. Ready to detonate on your order." "All ships pull back," Day commanded. "Maximum speed. Get as far as you can." The surviving ships, maybe 40 out of 200, retreated from the Void Heart. The swarm pursued, but slowly, as if confused by the humans' withdrawal. Captain Jin's Indomitable was barely functional. "Commander, we cannot make the safe distance. Too much damage. Engines failing." Commander Day looked at his own bridge crew. His flagship was in similar condition. They had given everything, and it still was not enough. They would die here, even if the mission succeeded. "Captain Jin, it has been an honor," Day said quietly. "The honor was mine, Commander," Jin replied. "At least we will end this knowing we saved the galaxy." Dr. Yuna's voice cut through, urgent. "Commander, wait. The charges do not need manual detonation. I can trigger them remotely from here. You do not have to stay." "Do it now, Doctor," Day ordered, "before the swarm realizes what we have done." Yuna activated the detonation sequence. Deep inside the Void Heart, thousands of explosive charges detonated simultaneously. The massive structure began to crack. Energy leaked from the fractures, building. Then the core exploded. The blast was like a newborn star. The Void Heart shattered into a billion pieces. The shockwave spread outward, destroying every swarm ship in the system. Even the retreating coalition ships were tossed around like leaves in a storm. On the Indomitable's bridge, alarms screamed. "Brace for impact!" Jin shouted. The shockwave hit them. The ship tumbled, systems failing, hull breaching. But it held together, barely. Chief Tay had built these ships well, reinforced them beyond standard design. They survived. Slowly, the chaos calmed. The debris field cleared, and in the distance, the swarm fleet was gone. Every ship drifted silent and dark, their connection to the Void Heart severed. They were just empty husks now, crystalline shells with no intelligence to guide them. "Status report," Day asked, his voice hoarse. One by one, surviving ships reported in. 47 coalition vessels remained. 8 human ships, including the Indomitable, including Day's flagship. "We did it," Captain Jin said, disbelief in his voice. "We actually did it." Lieutenant Rena's boarding pod docked with a coalition ship. She and her survivors stumbled out, exhausted and bloodied. Kex collapsed against a wall, tears running down his face. "We survived. I cannot believe we survived." "Many did not," Rena said quietly. "Remember them. Honor them. They won this battle as much as we did." Back at Nexara, Ambassador Hana was in her office when the message came through. Commander Day's face appeared on her screen. He looked terrible, covered in blood and soot, but he was smiling. "Ambassador Hana, mission accomplished. The Void Heart is destroyed. The swarm is fragmented. We are coming home." Hana could not stop the tears. She had thought them all dead. Everyone had. But they had done it. The impossible mission, the desperate gamble. It had worked. News spread through the station within minutes, through the coalition within hours. The war was over, not finished. There would be cleanup and hunting down swarm remnants for years, but the threat was broken. The galaxy was saved. The fleet took 2 weeks to limp back to Nexara. When they finally arrived, the entire station came out to watch. Hana stood at the docking port as damaged, scarred ships slowly came into port. Commander Day was the first to step off his ship. He looked older somehow, worn down by months of war, but he stood straight and proud. "Welcome home, Commander," Hana said. "Thank you, Ambassador. It is good to be back." The other survivors followed. Captain Jin, limping from injuries. Chief Tay, his hands bandaged from working on broken machinery during the battle. Dr. Yuna, exhausted but still carrying her research tablets. Lieutenant Rena, surrounded by her surviving Marines, both human and alien. Chancellor Vextar met them in the main hall. The council assembled, along with thousands of citizens who wanted to see the heroes who saved them. Commander Day, Vextar said, his voice carrying through the hall. 6 months ago, we called for help in our darkest hour. You answered. You taught us how to fight again, how to sacrifice, how to hope. You lost 2/3 of your forces. 10,000 humans died in this war. There are no words adequate to express our gratitude. They died protecting life, Day said simply. That is what humans do. We protect. We fight. We refuse to surrender, not because we love war, but because we love peace. We love life. We love the idea that tomorrow can be better than today. Earth will have a permanent seat on the council, Vextar announced. Humanity will be recognized as a founding member of the new coalition. Your sacrifice has earned you a place among the stars. The hall erupted in cheers, but Hana watched Day's face. He did not smile. He was thinking of all those who would never see this moment, all the names on the memorial walls. That night, they held another service. This time, not just for the dead, but for the victory, for the future, for hope. 5 years later, Ambassador Hana stood in that same memorial hall. The walls were covered now with names, so many names, human names, coalition names, all those who fought, all those who fell. But outside, the galaxy was rebuilding. Humanity's culture had spread through coalition space. Young aliens studied at human military academies. Mixed crews served on ships together. The barriers between species had broken down. Dr. Yuna had become famous. Her books on human psychology required reading for all coalition officers. Lieutenant Rena, now a general, ran the coalition special forces, training elite soldiers from every species. Chief Tai's engineering school produced some of the best technicians in the galaxy. Commander Day had retired to Earth, finally going home. But his legacy remained. The galaxy remembered what he and his people had done. Hana touched one name on the wall, a young medic named Hai, who had stayed behind on a collapsing station to save wounded aliens. She had transmitted one final message before the end. It is what we do. That message had become the motto of the new coalition military. It was what they all did now: help, protect, fight for each other, fight for life. A group of young soldiers walked past, a mixed team of humans and aliens. They saw Hana at the memorial and saluted. She saluted back, watching them go. They were the future, a future where species fought together instead of alone, where sacrifice meant something, where hope lived. The war had seemed lost, so they called in the humans, and the humans came, and the galaxy survived. Hana smiled and walked out of the memorial hall. Outside, the stars shone bright with possibility. The swarm was gone. The darkness had been pushed back, and in every corner of the galaxy, beings of every species lived in peace, protected by warriors who understood what the humans had taught them. That some things are worth fighting for, some things are worth dying for, and the most important thing, the thing humans never forgot, was that life is always worth protecting. The humans had come when called. They had fought when needed. They had sacrificed everything, and they had won. The galaxy would remember, forever.